All right, good evening and happy Tuesday. It is December 1st, Tuesday evening, 8 p.m. We are here with the Good News Game Plan with Joe Kelly, and here he is now. How we doing, Joe? There he is.
Hello, Tim. Oh, you had me on, then you had me off, and you had me on again. All right, fantastic. How are you doing?
We're doing great. I had a great Thanksgiving. How about yours?
It was great. We tried to get a small bird, and we thought that would be bad news that we were getting a small bird, but bad news turned into good news because we ended up having a small group, but a 24-pound turkey, and so we've been eating leftovers for days, and that's good news. So we certainly enjoyed having loads of extra turkey. That was great. So we enjoyed our Thanksgiving. We were very thankful. So it was a top-notch thing. What size bird did you guys have, Tim?
We actually had a 17-pound bird for the 7 of us. So we do have a lot of. What is your favorite after Thanksgiving dish? What do you do with the leftovers? What's your favorite?
Oh, well, you know what? I do have to say, usually I do like the stuffing and the turkey with the gravy on top, of course.
Right.
But I'm kind of trying to avoid carbs, so I've been eating straight turkey and mayonnaise. So that's kind of like carb free, and that's not the protein thing. So avoiding the carbs helps me lose some weight. I was pushing around 300 pounds not too long ago. Now I'm down around 265, and it's cutting out the carbs is a good thing. That's good news, good for our health, and good for everybody. So that's a good thing. It's fantastic. Hey, Tim, I got to tell you something. This intern contest, it's something. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It would be a little bit better if somebody would respond, but other than the fact that nobody's responded at all, it's great. So I think one of these days, eventually, we're going to get an intern who's going to help us with the good news. And all I could think of right now is I was watching those stocks today. How about those stocks record highs? Good news all across the board from the investment community, that's for sure.
That's good stuff that they see the economy's going to pick up. They must be investing in something.
Absolutely. Are you long? Do you have stocks, Tim?
Oh yeah, I'm very diversified. That's the truth.
Well, I know you're diversified. I was just curious if you're long stocks. But okay, great. Well, that's good. Well, thank you for letting us know that you're diversified. And now we're going to go into our first guest. Our first guest is a Greenwich legend. So if we could bring Steve Lapham on, that would be great. Hello, Steve, Greenwich legend. How are you, sir?
Oh, you're too kind. Very well, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Oh, perfect.
How you doing, Tim?
Very good. Great
Good.
to see you.
You did give you a requirement coming onto the show. You have to share some either Greenwich or more broad and general good news because, as you might have heard, our intern search has not drawn any interest from anyone at all. So therefore, we have to try a little harder to find interns to replace our intern Daniel, our intern Zane, and our intern Johnny. Those 3 guys did a great job. We are internless right now, so we're counting on our guests to give us good news. You have any good news for us, Steve?
Well, I did not know you had an opening. I certainly can pass that word around the high school when I get back on Thursday.
You're not a regular. Now you have been out of the school for a while, I understand. Is that true, Steve?
That is true. I was quarantined for a little while due to a little exposure, but I must say, good news. This is the story, right? The show. Our family is completely COVID-free. We went and got tested, so we are all set. I'm ready to get back to work.
Well, that's
Even
great.
though I've been working every day anyways, it's just from home.
Well, yeah, exactly. You're doing it remote, but you're a legend at the school. I had the pleasure of working with you, and I do have to say though, we got to meet each other first in the rugby community. And the first bit of coaching I did when I moved to Greenwich was helping or doing some volunteer work coaching for you at the high school. That was a pleasure to do that. I enjoyed working with your group, and from there, I just coached I coached a million things. I coached the OGRCC youth program. I coached soccer. I coached basketball. I coached a ton of stuff. But I really got excited is your invitation to take it on professionally. I believe it was one night over a beer in one of the local establishments. You had mentioned to me that you were considering retiring after 20 years of running the Greenwich High School rugby program, incredibly successful Greenwich rugby program, and the stories of your legendary days coaching that are unbelievable. The kids would tell stories, but when they offered me that opportunity, I tried to figure out how could I possibly juggle my schedule to make that happen. It was one of the greatest decisions of my life to take over that program. I did it 9 years after you left it, and it was just so rewarding. I really enjoyed it. Tell me about your 20 years doing it.
Well, I was lucky enough when I got hired in Greenwich back in 1989 that I was playing D1 rugby with New Haven and playing some volleyball on the side as well for fun. And then I get hired as a teacher in Greenwich. I was on my way to California and ready to go move out there. It's funny how things go in life, one step this way. And they told me, don't go sign any leases in California. We want a second interview. I ended up getting hired at Eastern Middle School. And that same spring season, the head coach of the rugby team, they had already been in, I think, for 5 years. No, I don't know, 6 years. And he was going back to grad school at Yale. So they had an opening for a head coach. And I just slid right in and took it on. At first, I had 75 kids and myself. And I'm running around trying to run 20 different drills. And eventually I got smarter like you guys and started hiring more people. And then within a couple of years, the volleyball coach left. That was another story. And I said, hey, I'll try that too. So I've been doing those two sports did 20 years, 18 with volleyball. And then I keep going with volleyball. This is year 28. So I'm an old man.
28 years coaching volleyball. Now, let me go back to rugby for a second, because I've got a sweet spot, certainly, with the rugby program. Now, before you got that coaching opportunity, you were a bit of a legend. You played in college, right?
Yep.
Then you played out you were in Southern. Where did you go to college?
Southern Connecticut State, yes.
Southern Connecticut State. Did you start the team there, or were you the early stages of creating that team?
No, that team started, I believe, in the late 70s. So they were, again, about 4 or 5 years old when I got in there. Mm-hmm. And I didn't start because I was playing basketball at Southern my first 2 years. And I ended up cutting up my knee, playing some sandlot football, whatever. And I stopped basketball and I started playing rugby. And I fell in love with it first day.
Well, then you started the New Haven Rugby Club. Is that correct?
Correct. Myself and 4 other buddies. It was kind of our rugby house, our apartment in New Haven. And from there, we just went out and put up signs and said, let's start a program. We had New Haven going good for about 4 or 5 years. Then the Berlin Strollers, who's another men's team, folded, and we took half of them. And then all of a sudden we grew and it's a great club. I'm really proud of New Haven.
Oh, great. They always run that tournament every year, the Sevens tournament, where Greenwich High School always represents very well. And a lot of great guys from that program. But working with you was good. Getting the opportunity to coach at the professional level was a bit daunting at the beginning, because we've done a little coaching of the kids' teams and all about different football and basketball, as I mentioned, soccer, all those sort of sports, but taking it to the professional level. As we were just talking about prior to getting on here, Steve, when you said, well, I'll help you as best I can, you handed me a stack of papers about this high of things that I've got to do and I'm required to take care of and stuff. I'm like, whoa, I'm not ready for this. But I'll tell you, though, we had to get ready for it. But it was a great experience. We got you accustomed to it. We got comfortable with it. And we took what you had made into a well-oiled machine and kept that machine running along. So certainly you visited us and helped us along the way. Tell me, with the coaching, the 28 years of coaching girls volleyball, the 20 years of coaching the boys rugby. Now you're also just with rugby. Then I want to hear a few stories of things you enjoyed while coaching. You also are a recipient of the Greenwich High School Hall of Fame Award. I do know that because I think I gave it to you. So
I believe you did.
Yes, so that was an honor to give that to you for sure. And then you're also the recipient of the State of Connecticut Rugby Hall of Famer. You received that 2 years after I started it. So I have something that I'm proud that I was able to be somewhat indirectly giving that one to you as well. And you certainly well deserved it with what you've done in the state, because not only did you coach a good team, you helped all the other teams in our state create programs, because you already had an established program. You had to travel outside the state to play teams, but you went and these startup teams like Fairfield, Staples, well, not Fairfield Prep because they've been around for a while, so you always had them. But all these other teams that started, Simsbury, they all started because you were nice enough to send a squad over and patiently work with them in their early days. So that was great stuff. But tell me some fun stories about coaching, either whether it be the girls volleyball that you ran for 28 years, head coach of, or the rugby program.
Well, while we're on rugby right now, there's a good story because when we went on tour, we went on several tours, and I think that was some of the most meaningful times as a coach, because you're taking a group of 27, 28 athletes, high school boys, to another country. And we got a story in Italy. We had one kid almost got thrown out because he was from Peru. And I didn't realize I shouldn't have shown that passport. But when we were down in England, Coach John Porter, who I will mention a few people, and he's one of my favorite, just a good-hearted coach. He was the guy that always reminded me to look after every player on the program, not just the starters, build the entire program. John took us on that tour because it was his stomping grounds when he was young. And we actually, for you rugby aficionados that know what we're talking about, our game against Keynsham was reffed by Nigel Owens, who's recognized as probably the best ref in the world. Mm-hmm. And wouldn't you know, Nigel misses a knock on Keynsham in the first 5 minutes of the game. But anyways, we won't remind that. No. But, the rugby experience has been great. It was kind of a blessing because I picked two sports where I didn't have a ton of parent knowledge, because sometimes these parents know a lot and they're very helpful. But when you're picking rugby and volleyball, some of the rugby parents at first was like, I don't even know how this game's played.
It's much better that way.
It is much better that way. And you can really train the boys. They don't have bad habits yet. Mm-hmm. They haven't played.
That's right.
But now I think with the development of OGRCC, they got to be given a lot of credit for also helping to develop Greenwich rugby. Absolutely. But back to volleyball. We did go undefeated this year. It was the first time. Although it was
congratulations. It's first time undefeated. Congratulations. Well done.
Thanks. Yeah, the girls were really good. We were a really strong team this year. We ended up beating Darien 3 times. And I went, I think, 15 years before we beat Darien once in volleyball. So for that, it was a great accomplishment. The girls are great. 2 different beasts, the girls and the boys, but they're both the same. You love them. They're so passionate at the high school level. And I feel it's been a blessing for me.
We're lucky as a community, Steve, we're lucky as a community to have you working as a coach as well as in the phys ed department at the school. You must have just helped so many kids physically over the years, sports, athletics, just exercise the kids in school that didn't play video games and ate ice cream and donuts. You had them running around playing I mean, that's just great. Now, a guy like yourself that's committed to doing it like you have for 31 years for our town, there's just no thanking you enough for doing that and doing it in the positive way you do that. So thank you for that. You coached lots of other things. You had a great time coaching your kids. You have 3 boys. And you coached all the 3 boys in all their sports, which must have been very exciting up in Trumbull, even though I don't know why you didn't start a rugby team up there. My brother's living up there, and he was hoping that someone would start a rugby team, but we're unable to get that done.
Oh, his boys are too much into football.
Yeah, well.
They're good football players. Stonehill, right?
Yep. They wanted another sport of rugby. Jack, the oldest son of my brother John, is now he's finished with Stonehill, and now he's like, well, I'm at my athletic peak. What next? And football kind of leaves you at the end of college, and they're trying to convince him to play rugby, but it takes a while to get those skills up. So he's trying to work on that. But we're it's all good. And Steve, we have an old friend of yours sitting there waiting in the green room that you spent many an hour on the sideline with and talking to. And Paul, are you around? Can we bring Paul in? Paul,
hello, how are you?
Hello, Paul. Paul is one of the most known sports writers in the town of Greenwich. And Steve and Paul, you guys must have exchanged many stories. And Paul, you must have wrote 1 million quotes from Steve over the years. I don't know where you got all those quotes, Steve, but I ran out like year 2. But you had a different one each time. And Paul was the best writer. He'd be patient. He would make sure because I certainly stumble over the English language on a regular basis, and Paul would make sure that when I mispronunciated a word, that he would certainly put the right one in for me. So thank you for that, Paul. And Steve, do you have any unique stories about Paul, Steve, that you might remember?
Please don't embarrass me.
No, well, first off, it was a great surprise to hear he was coming on tonight, because he is one of the nicest guys. And sometimes after a loss, your top 10 things are not to go talk to a reporter right after the game. And but he always brought it in easy, and we kind of teased in our own office at the PE office, because we'd listen to them doing their broadcast with Rob Adams and Paul, and they'd be like, "Looks like Coach calling a timeout. Back to you, Paul." Paul like, "We're going to call a timeout. Back to you, Rob." And, that's how we had our fun.
Yeah. Now, let me also say that as a journalist, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you on the sidelines and during games. There's been a lot of times where, like you said, maybe talking to someone like me might not be your most favorite thing to do in the world after games, especially those close games, but you always were patient with whatever I said, and you were great. So I just want to thank you very much for making my job very easy.
Well, I always say, anytime I talk to anybody, thanks for covering the players, because that's what mom and dads like to see. They like to see their daughter's name, their son's name, get them some recognition, because they're working hard day in and day out, especially this year. This season was by far the toughest of them all. And I got to give all the credit to every team and every coach out there this fall for working their butt off and staying healthy and doing the best they can under difficult situations. But this is a positive show, so let's keep it going, Joe.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel. We have vaccines coming. It's all good. Things are great. Well, Steve, now we know we're excited about you coming back to school on Thursday, and I'm sure you're equally excited because you love working with the kids, and certainly you taught me a lot about coaching. Is there one thing you'd like to promote or speak of or suggest to have anyone here out there who might be watching the show?
Real quick, sure. We talk about – I actually use a lot of the principles from the All Blacks, the rugby team, and one of it is playing for a higher thing than yourself. And we do that at the Greenwich Volleyball team. We play for a little guy in our team. His name is Ben Chisholm, who got acute flaccid myelitis, which is a rare disease. So if anybody's ever looking in, they see AFM or acute flaccid myelitis and they want to donate $1, please do, because it may help this little guy who was a perfectly healthy little boy, and all of a sudden this virus attacked his nerves, and he became a paraplegic within 3 days. And he's still in a wheelchair today, and he's 5 years old. But the girls play for him every year. I think on my thing we have a Super B. I don't know if you can see that. It's a Super B, and that's for Ben, because he's our Superman. So if I ever wanted to promote anything, that would be my guy. And Becky Ranta Chisholm was a former player for us, and she was one of the best I ever had. She was all-state, and I think basketball, volleyball, great in softball. So hats off to little Ben.
Well, Steve, thanks for that. Typical yourself, thinking of others rather than yourself. So thank you for that. And once again, and I say this with total sincerity, that the town owes you a lot and should give you more recognition for all the effect you have on the kids who go through your programs, whether it be at the school or whether it be the coaching you did. So thank you for what you did. Thanks very much, Steve. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. We'll see you.
Take care. Kelly.
Bye. Paul. Hello, Paul.
How are you?
I'm great. Like we said before, it was such a pleasure, and you helped get me acclimated with what you do as a head coach. Steve taught me basically what to do as a high school head coach, but you came in the background asking the questions. So, Joe, maybe you want to have some of your captains come over here and talk to me so I can put them in the paper, forgetting about what you're talking. Yes, so thank you for being patient. Thank you for making me sound more intelligent than I am in the newspaper. All of that's been great. Now, I do appreciate that. And we developed quite a little friendship along the way, sports writer and coach. And then we found ourselves on the sidelines catching up with each other every season. And certainly enjoying when you came to visit our games. And the kids always loved running over to you and talking. I'd prepare them and say, you better have a quote or something interesting to Paul. And then they would, so they do well. And if they didn't, you'd help them along. So thank you for that. So tell me about your sports writing. Tell me, first of all, you got to share some good news. What's good news?
Well, Mr. Lapham did a very good job kind of stealing my thunder about some of my good news, which was how the girls' volleyball team had an undefeated season and was as lights out could be. I mean, I remember covering those games where they were so close to beating Darien. They were almost there, and then they finally got over the hump, beat Darien, and it was such a good memory of that. So that was going to be part of my my good news. But I guess I could also say the good news is the Greenwich girls cross country team also had an undefeated season. Head coach Evan Dubin has done a great job with the program, and they have the fastest runner cross country in the state, Mari Noble, who has been just unbelievable. I mean, and it's one of those amazing things when I was interviewing the coach, and he said that sometimes for her it's hard to be so kind of good because she's blowing by the competition, and it's really hard to keep it up. So for her to be able to do that week in and week out is a testament to her strength. So that's another good news, that the team went undefeated, won the FCAC West, and could have won probably a lot more.
Well, that's great news, because in this time of less interaction with the kids, having opportunities like this, as Steve mentioned before, is just great. Now, Paul, we didn't get to really talk, and we had a brief phone call prior to this, and I got to know you, talk about your kids, talk about stuff, but tell me a little about your background, to bring me where you grew up, all that sort of stuff, just a little about yourself.
Well, it's funny that Trumbull is the popular place here, because I grew up in Trumbull. Was born and raised there, went to Trumbull High School, graduated there, attended Keene State College, which if I was smart, I would have worn Keene State instead of UConn, but never said I was the smartest. But I went to Keene State for 4 years, graduated in 1999 with my journalism degree. I was in the college newspaper, and then after that, upon graduation, within a couple of weeks, started working at the Norwalk Citizen News back in Norwalk. Did that until about 2007, when I became the sports editor of the Greenwich Post. Did that until I helped start with Beth Barhydt, the Greenwich Sentinel. So it was great.
Well, Paul, on that note, we're going to bring Peter Barhydt in, because he's one of our guests as well. So we can bring Peter in as well. And welcome, Peter. How are you, sir?
I am well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
and what an honor to share the platform with Paul, who was.
Trust me, I'm the one that's honored here.
The Greenwich Sentinel would not have happened without Paul.
Well, you guys work together on making a great newspaper. I know I certainly read it regularly, and I know that certainly everyone appreciates it. And I guess, Paul, continue briefly, and then we'll go to Peter a little bit on some stuff. But Paul, tell us, when you joined the Sentinel, you worked there for how many years?
All of them.
Four. Yeah.
So you got
since the paper started.
On the early stages, so you guys must have interacted a lot. Do you have any interesting stories about each other that might entertain us all, that you might want to talk about? Obviously, remembering the theme of the show is good news and good news only. I'm kidding, of course.
How long is the delay in here? No, honestly, one of the reasons why I left the Greenwich Post to go to the Greenwich Sentinel was because of the Barhydts and how great of people they are, and how dedicated they were to anything that they do and stuff like that. So once I saw that they were putting a newspaper together, I kind of said that this is a win-win. I want to work with them, and I want to come back to Greenwich where I was working, because, you know, once the paper at the Greenwich Post closed, I was working back in at the Trumbull Times, and it was kind of a little on the awkward side seeing some of the coaches that actually were my gym teachers and stuff like that. So it wasn't really the ideal thing. So once I saw this, I had to jump on it, and honestly, it was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. It was really, really great. Everything about it.
That's good. That's good. Now that's good news. That's really good news. And
That's
now,
phenomenal news.
Peter, we got to put it on you a little bit because you're the new guy into the conversation. Please share some good news with us right now. Maybe Greenwich local, or maybe even bigger than Greenwich. Do you have any good news for us today as you come into the good news program?
Pages 1 through 20 of the Greenwich Sentinel.
Perfect.
Good news, always.
Always a positive twist, and it's important, especially in times like this, keeping the news good, because all those other television programs, the news, all that sort of stuff, they talk about bad things, and even in this show, a lot of times we've got to direct people away from drifting into the usual conversations of things that are sometimes not so good, and we have to swing it into the good news because it's the good news show. So
exactly.
Exactly. Now, Paul, just one last thing, if we could, then we're going to go to
Sure.
people. Do you have anything that you're working on that you want to get out to the community that you might want to mention, something that is near and dear to your heart?
Read this week's Greenwich Sentinel. I'm sure it's good. Outstanding. And from what I heard, there might be a special story in there somewhere written by some person that, I don't know, maybe has the same name as me. I'm just saying. We don't know yet. We don't know. There might be something.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Paul. Always a pleasure to speak to you. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for coming on the show. We'll see you later.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Take care, Peter.
Take care, Paul.
Yeah. Peter, thanks very much for all you do for our community. I know we met it was about a year and a half ago. I started getting involved in some of the local politics in town because I didn't know anything about what went on. I did a lot of coaching and a whole lot of volunteer work, but never into politics stuff. And you were nice enough to grab me aside and teach me what all these RTM, RTC, DT, all these letters. I had no idea what they meant. You were able to sort of unravel some of that, and also just in general what the flavor of some of the politics in town is all about. You've been involved in this for a while, haven't you?
Before getting involved in the paper, yes, very involved.
Now I think we originally met on your philanthropy, where you raise money for a lot of charities. Now, which are some of the very important ones to you that you're working on now?
Oh my gosh, there are so many charities that need assistance in town, and they're all great charities because they all focus on different areas of town. There is Ableist, there is Kids in Crisis, which has a near and dear place in my heart. Because I worked with them when I was working for Congressman Shays as well. So there are just Emily's Chimes out at Todd's Point, a new one that's different and fantastic. And who wouldn't want to hear the chimes ringing again at Todd's Point? So there are so many different nonprofits that you can get associated with. They're all good.
And this year's a tough one because it's usually you can call a reason to get together, a cocktail party, a dinner dance, something like that, where a bunch of us knuckleheads would buy tickets and show up anyway because we're just there for the fun, sometimes not even knowing what we're donating the money to. So it makes it a lot easier, especially in the auctions. After maybe a couple of cocktails, you do maybe pledge a little more money than you planned on going in there, given that you're having a good time. So it must make it hard in the charity land right now to take care of things like that. But the good work you do is certainly recognized from myself, and we really enjoy watching you do your stuff. Now, you moved to town about 30 years ago. Is that about right?
Yes, 1990.
And give me a little background on yourself. We talked briefly a little bit about that, and it's funny because in real life you don't really often go down to the background of people, but so I kind of want to on this show. I bring people I know on the show. Generally, it's people I know well, and I kind of don't know some questions. So bring us from early days. Where'd you grow up? All that sort of stuff. Tell me a little story of yourself.
Well, I say often when I'm out talking in front of groups like the Rotary and whatnot, that the most interesting thing about me is that I get to sleep with the publisher of the newspaper. And the reason I get to do that, and my wife, Beth Barhydt, is the publisher. The reason I get to do that is because we met in high school. And we both went to the Gunnery School, which is an independent school up in Washington, Connecticut, and fell in love there as teenagers, went to college together, and then moved down here as soon as we graduated from college.
Well, fantastic. Well, you've been part of this town, an active member of this town for some time, and your political involvement certainly something that is new and exciting to me. With the little bit involvement now on the Board of Education, that's certainly very interesting, and I hope I'm contributing. The other board members seem to think I am, so I think I'm okay that way. We had a little a toe in the water of an election, and that was a whole lot of fun. We really enjoyed that whole process. I certainly learned a lot, and made. And who did I make the strange friendship with? Was the guy I was running against. So I had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we end up we're going out to dinner shortly, and I told him we're going to keep on him to make sure he fulfills the conservative or somewhat more conservative promises he made about fiscal responsibility and maybe less regulations. So we'll keep on him on that. But the fun thing is we had that contest, but we also made a friendship out of it, which is basically what I like to do. I like to meet people and get to know people, and the circumstances are relevant. Just getting to know people is a better thing. So tell me, when you and Beth started the newspaper, what drove you to start a newspaper in a world that seemed to be more digital, more internet based? You went to the old the paper itself with the ink and the pages.
Beth came up with the idea of starting the newspaper, and she talked with me about it, and I thought she was crazy. I did not understand. And then she did some research, and she came back at me as she does with phenomenal research. And she said, Warren Buffett is buying community newspapers left, right, and center. And so we talked about it, and the pendulum swings in this country, as you know, both politically and with investments in all sorts of different areas. And so the media was the area that was not getting the attention it deserved was community newspapers, weekly community newspapers that focused just within one community. And she was right, of course. I was wrong, of course. And she's like, we're going for it. And so we started it, and it's been going like gangbusters for 6 years.
We're certainly happy you have, because a lot of times, I know, talking about those charity events and stuff, I'm sometimes sitting talking to Jill about what we're doing on the weekend. And that's obviously, you've timed your newspaper to get delivered right before the weekend, and it's full of information, things we could do on the weekend. So a lot of times our weekends are planned, especially if we don't have anything done in advance. We basically look at your paper and we decide, hey, let's do this. It looks like a good thing to do. So certainly helps us out a lot. And Peter, is there something that you're working on right now that takes a high priority that you want to get your message out? Because I certainly appreciate everyone coming on the show, because I'm only doing the show because I really enjoy it. So
if there's one thing I could encourage people to get involved with, it's this weekend. It's this Saturday. It is the Battle of the Badges. It is a blood drive. We're in the middle of COVID. I get it. Nobody wants to go anywhere. It's unfortunate. We need to support our local businesses, yes. But more importantly than supporting our local businesses, if there was one thing more important than supporting our local businesses, it's giving blood so that our hospital has the resources it needs to be able to help patients. So there's an annual Battle of the Badges. GEMS, the police department, the fire department, Saturday at the public safety complex, starting at 8 o'clock until 1 o'clock. Whichever organization signs up the most people to donate blood wins.
Now, which team are you donating for? Are you able to mention this, or you're giving to both sides? You're giving 2 pints of blood on a day. Which one are you doing?
Well, Joe, my blood is blue.
Perfect. You're a blue-blooded gentleman, of course.
Of course. And there also is a Stuff the Cruiser, which is they're taking toys for people that are less fortunate. You can donate. You can drop them off there at the same time.
Oh, fantastic. So you could bring a toy for an unfortunate, underprivileged kid. And also you could just give blood, because we have to give blood, because especially now our hospitals are once again at capacity. And this is certainly something we need. So great. Thank you for that. Thank you for all you do. This community is made better because of people like yourself. And keep up the great work. And if there's anything I could do, let me know. And I will be giving you a call on this political thing. I know we had some chats earlier on, but I learned so much, and I want to maybe grab a beer and talk about going forward with stuff. So, Peter, thank you for coming on the show. It was great. Thanks very much.
Honored to be here. Thank you.
We'll see you later on. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey, Tim.
Hey.
It's Tim. You want to say something to Peter? He's been a wonderful guest. One of the nicest guests we've had so far.
Well, I remember that when a couple months back, I said, oh, I gave blood today. And you said willingly. And yeah, I donate regularly. And I heard about we had the person from the Red Cross on last week, and she mentioned the Battle of the Badges. So I went to go and sign up. And the good news is that every slot is full. So it looks, I don't know if anybody wants to go and look on the Red Cross, see if they can sign up, or if anybody dropped out, they can jump in there. So I took the next best day, which is Monday at the Eastern Civic Center. I'm going to donate. I don't think I'll get to donate towards a badge, but you'll still get my blood.
Yes, so Stephanie was on here trying to, I guess it was her appearance on our program, which filled the card for both sides on the raising the money, raising the blood, or bringing the blood in this weekend. So I don't know what to do with my blood now this weekend, but I was hoping to direct it somewhere. Now I have no idea, but I'll figure something out. I can't play rugby. That would be one way of giving blood, but we can't do that. But it was, once again, a great experience, a wonderful show, and hopefully we're able to do it again next week.
That's right, and we're still looking for an intern. So,
that's right. Did we get an intern during the show? Peter, do you know an intern? We're having an intern contest. We started about 2 weeks ago. We decided to take in all applicants. We ended up having nobody apply. So therefore, we now have to find somebody. It's a really good job. You get to do good news. What more would you want other than doing good news? And you make appearances too. So life is good when you're an intern for the Good News game plan. So
send the info to the Sentinel. We'll put it out there.
Oh, good news. Excellent. More good news from Peter.
More good news.
Excellent. Okay, thanks, everybody. We'll see you guys next week, next Tuesday, 8 o'clock. Bye-bye.